What if there was a way to solve one of the biggest problems that you and every other songwriter has? How to take the songs that you have written and finished and are proud of and get them produced to a world-class production standard, even if you don't know any producers, don't have access to session musicians, and can't afford to pay thousands of dollars a day to hire a professional recording studio. So we decided to try an online recording service, one that is all the way over in London while we are here in Sydney, Australia, because they claim to solve all these problems. But the real question for us is this a scam, or is it actually possible to do this and get a great product? Because if it is possible, it has the potential to revolutionize the production process for songwriters around the world. So to find out if this was a scam or if this was real, we decided to send them one of our brand new songs and go through the production process with them. So let's find out what happens.
So essentially, we've written a song together and we really love the song. And that just raises the stakes because we don't want, this to get messed up. We want this beautiful song we feel we've written to come to life in the best possible way.
CATALINA, I never did see you smile. I never did see you smile.
We were approached by a company in London called the Online Recording Studio. And what this company does is they have a roster of producers around the world, and songwriters can send in their demos and they will transform the demos into fully produced, multi-instrumental, Spotify-ready tracks.
And they're doing it in a really creative way. They're basically saying, you send us your track, we'll work out how many instruments you want on it, and you kind of pay per instrument. So the pricing structure has been designed to be really, affordable for most people because it's just the instruments you need.
Okay, but before you get too excited about it.
Yeah.
One of the things about this is that it seems like maybe a little bit too good to be true. I went online and had a look at some of their videos, Instagram reels of people they worked with, and they're really impressive. The transformations of songs are really, really cool. So one of the reasons we're open to the idea of having one of our songs produced by them is to kind of test it out and see if it works.
I mean, most people that we work with, even if they feel really confident in their songwriting, they get to this point where the song is finished, it's been worked and reworked. They don't know who to call, they don't have access to studios, and they certainly don't have access to session players. So if they're offering this kind of all-in-one package where they hook you up with the right producer who has access to the appropriate session players, and it's all done in the one process and it takes a few weeks and you have some back and forth, that solves an enormous problem for most songwriters. But the big question, I will say concern for me is this idea of working with a producer all the way around the other side of the world and really having conversations on Zoom, which we've all gotten comfortable with, but not being there in the room, completely trusting that side of things to this other person who we've just met. There's
also a question in my mind as to whether producing it with many instruments is actually going to enhance the song, or is it going to detract from the song? Is the production process gonna end up being kind of generic?
It's new territory for us.
Yeah.
So we had a meeting with Joe Wadsworth, the founder and CEO of the Online Recording Studio, who talked us through the whole process and how it was going to work. And he also asked us about the style of our track, the genre, instrumentation ideas that we had, and he listened to some of our song references that we sent him, essentially a playlist of songs and artists that we really liked and represented the kind of sound that we were going for with this particular track. Joe then matched us with one of his producers, Danny Beck, who he felt had the experience and the skills to get the kind of results we were looking for. And after that, we had our first meeting with Danny online.
Hey, Danny.
That's not me sat at a piano. That's just my profile picture there. That's
Love it.
So at the moment, all I was thinking was acoustic bass and drums at this point. It's whatever is on top of that will really dictate the sound of the track. Will really take it in one direction compared to another.
Experimenting with this old and new kind of thing, I think could be really fun because it feels to me and it feels to Kep when we're talking about it, like there's a lot you could do with it and make it quite contemporary, make it quite indie if we wanted to go down that path. So we just wanted to sort of leave that to you to interpret as you wanted to.
What it needs to sound like is it needs to sound like a band playing in the room. Like, it needs to sound like 4 people in a room playing together. However, this is going to be difficult because you're over there, I'm over here. So I get like a draft to you, being like, here's what I think it should be. And then you'd be like, okay, I like that, don't like that, hate that, love that. And then we work from there until it gets to the point where, okay, now we're ready to record real instruments.
After that conversation, there are still some sort of like questions in my mind as to how are we really going to recreate the essence of 4 people playing together in a room. Is it even worth doing that? Is that kind of false authenticity? It's like trying to make something sound authentic, but inherently it's not what you're trying to make it sound like. So why bother at all? It could just be a massive waste of time.
So here's Danny creating the draft, and he's using a combination of live instruments, he's using some samples, he's using lots of MIDI. And at this stage in the process, all of the work that is being done is simply to create this draft so that we can discuss the arrangement, talk about some stylistic choices that need to be made. And he put hours and hours into this process to give us something that sounded good, that sounded believable, and gave us a real sense of how this song was going to sound once the session players came in and recorded the real instruments.
You're the whisper on my lips. You're the face I'll never kiss. You're the one I never had, and somehow I still miss. Catalina, I never did see you smile.
The shape of it, I think, is actually really good. So I would say that I feel like the form is lovely. We're now just sort of nitpicking specific production choices that Danny's making.
Benny and I spoke for an hour about what we liked, what we didn't like, what we wanted changed, moved, edited. For example, there were some drum hits on certain accents that we wanted cut out. There were some specific bass notes that we wanted moved to really match the mood of the song. We also thought the intro was too long, and we wanted some more melodic stuff happening with the guitar in the intro that really hinted at the hook coming up in the chorus. So all of this note-taking was very nitty-gritty stuff, but the reason we were diving in to this level of detail was because actually the overall track sounded really, really good and was totally in the zone of what we had been imagining.
So we gave these notes to Danny and discussed the changes that we had in mind. And this process happened 3 or 4 times over the next few weeks. Danny would make a new version of the track. He'd send it to us. Kepp and I would listen. We'd make our notes. We'd send them back. And through this back and forth process, we ironed out all the little kinks in the arrangement and really nailed down the specific parts we wanted each instrument to play. And finally, we arrived at a draft version of this track that we were really happy with. And Danny then took it into the studio and called in the session players.
Empty holes where your footsteps should be.
We wanted to try the online recording studio because if it worked, it solves a huge problem for songwriters around the world. And we wanted to try it ourselves because if we're going to recommend a company to you, we really want to be able to stand behind it. And we are delighted to say that we had an amazing experience. It was super easy to work with Danny, even from the other side of the world. He was amazing at taking on our notes. And once those session players came in and replaced those MIDI parts, the track just came to life in such a delightful way.
Catalina, I never did see you smile. I never did see you smile. Baby girl, I hear you in my dreams, but in the waking world, when I'm walking down the street, I swear I hear your voice, but I know it can't be yours. It's not to be, but I still picked you out a name, one so sweet. Catalina, what a shame. You're the whisper on my lips. You're the face I'll never kiss. You're the one I I never had, and somehow I still miss Catalina. I never did see you smile. I never did see you smile.
The other really important thing is understanding the cost involved. So if we had done this in a studio in Sydney, had booked a studio space, an audio engineer, a producer, and 3 live session musicians for a day of recording, it could easily have cost us the equivalent of $2,000 to $3,000 American dollars. And when we tallied up the expense of producing this track with the online recording studio, it came in at $800 US. Producing a track that sounds this good is not ever going to be cheap. And if you want real professional people working with you, it is going to cost you a little bit of money. But $800 is so wildly more accessible than the several $1,000s you're likely to pay if you're trying to book a studio and hire musicians. And how do you even find those people if they're not already in your network? So we are delighted to recommend their service. And if you are a songwriter interested in booking a totally obligation-free consultation with the people at the online recording studio about producing one of your songs, you can actually use the link in the video notes below to get a special 10% discount on your first booking with them, which they have generously offered to give to the people who book through our special link. So happy songwriting, happy producing. I'll see you next time. Bye.
I never did see you smile. I never did see you smile.